Sky Investigation AI.
June 1st, 2009. An Airbus A330 disappears over the Atlantic Ocean in the middle of a massive storm. No distress signal, no survivors. For 2 years, the black box remained 4,000 meters under the sea. When it was finally found, it revealed a terrifying truth. The pilots were fighting a ghost. Welcome to Sky Investigation AI. Today, we reconstruct the final minutes of Air France Flight 447. It all began like any other routine night flight. A steady hum of engines, a path marked by the stars, and the vast silence of the Atlantic below. For the 228 souls traveling from Rio to Paris, the sky was nothing more than a peaceful bridge to their destination. Some were dreaming of home, others were lost in the quiet luxury of the night. The cockpit was calm. The weather radar showed a clear path. No one could have known that in just a few hours, this tranquility would vanish into the heart of the most terrifying storm on Earth. The pilots glanced at their weather reports. In the distance, intense storm cells were emerging on the horizon. It seemed like a routine situation, an obstacle to navigate, nothing more. But this was no ordinary storm. The Intertropical Convergence Zone, a corridor of volatile weather in the heart of the ocean, harbored a beast the pilots had never truly encountered. The first gentle turbulences began. The aircraft's fuselage swayed like a ship on rough waves. And then, the first faint alarm sounded. It was a brief warning, almost like a fleeting blink. Suddenly, the air outside changed. It wasn't just rain anymore. It was ice. Millions of tiny crystals began to coat the aircraft's vital sensors. In a matter of seconds, the eyes of the Airbus A330 were blinded. The airspeed indicators dropped to 0. The computer was confused, and the autopilot disconnected with a sharp, haunting chime. The pilots were now flying a 200-ton machine, manually in total darkness, at 35,000 feet. They couldn't see the horizon. They didn't know how fast they were going. They were flying blind. In the chaos of the alarms, a fatal decision was made. One of the pilots pulled the side stick back, pointing the nose of the plane upward into the thin air. The aircraft began to climb, but it was losing speed rapidly. It was starving for air. Then, the most dreaded sound in aviation filled the cockpit. Stall, stall.
Stall, stall, stall.
Long years, the Atlantic kept its secret. The world watched in silence as ships and sonars scanned the endless blue, searching for a ghost. Air France 447 had simply vanished, leaving behind nothing but questions and a shattered trail of debris on the surface. The aircraft slammed into the ocean flat on its belly at high speed. How could this happen to a modern, sophisticated jet? Then, in April 2011, nearly 4 kilometers beneath the waves, the silence was broken. In a graveyard of twisted metal on the ocean floor, investigators finally found what they were looking for: the black boxes. They were the only witnesses to the final moments, preserved by the crushing pressure of the deep. As the data was recovered in a lab in Paris, the world prepared for the truth. Everyone expected a mechanical failure, a lightning strike, or a catastrophic explosion. But the recordings told a much more haunting story. It wasn't just about the machine failing. It was about what happened inside the cockpit during those final, desperate minutes. Data from the flight data recorder confirmed the nightmare. The pitot tubes had indeed frozen. These frozen sensors began sending erratic airspeed tubes had indeed frozen. These frozen sensors began sending erratic airspeed readings to the computer. Confused by the conflicting data, the autopilot disconnected. In that split second, the pilot in control made a critical decision. He pulled the nose of the aircraft up. At high altitudes, this was a fatal move. Lifting the nose caused the aircraft to enter an aerodynamic stall. But what happens next? In an aerodynamic stall, the wings lose their lift. The air can no longer support the weight of the machine, and the aircraft begins its terrifying descent. As the plane fell from the sky, the pilots were trapped in a deadly confusion. Because the sensors had frozen, they didn't realize the plane was in a stall. One pilot was pulling the nose up, while the other was trying to push it down. They were fighting against each other, and the aircraft was caught in the middle. But was all of this enough to bring down aircraft? The answer is no. But there was a hidden vulnerability in the cockpit. At the most critical moment, the man with the most experience was not in his seat. Captain Marc Dubois was taking his scheduled rest, leaving two junior co-pilots to face the Atlantic's most dangerous storm alone. The cockpit voice recorder revealed a terrifying reality. In the heat of the moment, it was impossible to tell who was actually in control. Due to the design of the side sticks, one pilot didn't realize the other was pulling back. They were giving conflicting commands. The final recordings are chilling. The captain rushed back, shouting, "What the hell are you doing?" The co-pilot's reply was a confession of total loss. "I've been pulling the stick back the whole time." His mistake was fatal. The last words weren't technical. They were a cry of realization before the silence returned to the Atlantic. For 3.5 minutes, the A330 didn't fly. It fell. It fell at a terrifying speed of 10,000 feet per minute. Despite the stall warnings screaming in their ears, the crew couldn't understand why the wings wouldn't bite the air. The vast Atlantic was rising to meet them in total darkness. In the final seconds, the realization came too late. The last words recorded were not of technical jargon, but of human desperation. At 2:14 a.m., the flight ended. Silence returned to the Atlantic, leaving behind a lesson written in the clouds. Even the most advanced machines are only as safe as the humans who command them. Today, you fly safer because of the lessons learned from AF447. It remains a grim reminder that even in our most advanced age, the sky still demands absolute respect. Aviation history is, unfortunately, often written in the ink of lessons learned through tragedy. Air France Flight 447 serves as a haunting reminder that even in an era of peak technology, the human factor and fundamental training remain the ultimate line of defense. On that pitch-black night over the Atlantic, a chain of events triggered by a few frozen sensors led to the loss of 228 lives. But this tragedy did not end in silence. If the speed sensors on the planes we fly today are more resilient, if pilots now undergo rigorous training to recover from high-altitude stalls, and if black boxes can now signal their location for months from the deepest trenches of the ocean, it is because of the legacy left behind by those lost that night. Thank you for watching this tragic yet profound chapter of aviation history with us. We wish you safe flights and clear skies. See you in the next video.